Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Monday edition of Today in Sports Betting. Taking a look at Monday Night Football. Scott, we're coming down to it, man. This is the last game of Week 14. It's the last quarter of the season. It's put up or shut up time. And, man, we got two teams tonight that both need to make a statement as the Baltimore Ravens head to the Mistake by the Lake to take on the Cleveland Browns there on the shores of lovely Lake Erie. You excited for this one, Scott?
In a way, kinda. I know that you're not used to the Browns playing meaningful games at this point in December, but look at, what 2020 has provided us in this perspective. The Browns are, they're pretty good, and I feel like a lot of people haven't said that in, I don't even know how long. What is it, like 20 years?
70 years?
Give or take. But I don't know, when Jim Brown was the thing. But looking at both of these teams, it's kind of a weird role reversal where you would have assumed that Baltimore would have had 9 wins by now, probably would have been fighting or almost clinching a playoff spot at this point. And Cleveland was the team that was going to need to claw to finish probably in third place in the division. Not quite how that worked out because Baltimore has had some serious issues, but anytime you play against the Cowboys, that tends to make some of your issues look less important. And they were able to win pretty comfortably on Tuesday night last week. Cleveland, on the other hand, had probably the best half of any team in the entire league this year in the first half against Tennessee. Of course, took their foot off the gas and needed to recover an onside kick to win the game, which I find pretty laughable. But they were up 30-plus at halftime, which tells you all you need to know. I know weather's going to play a huge factor into tonight's game, which we'll get into. But hopefully this game is competitive, and hopefully they will throw the ball on occasion instead of running the ball roughly 95% of the plays.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll just tell you as a side note, as a Chiefs fan, I'm used to teams that have totally outplayed the other team that still have to recover an onside kick at the end of the game to win. We're pretty much we specialize in taking our foot off the gas around here. So, it's going to be an interesting play. It'll be interesting to see how the Ravens are doing. Once again, they're on short rest due to the COVID problems that had to play basically 5 short days ago. So. They did look good, but I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting contest. This would be a really fun game, and I say this a lot, Scott, but this would be a real fun game to see with a full house for the Cleveland Browns fans to get to see a meaningful football in December. I think would be a real treat. I think it'd be a real treat for America to see it. And we certainly bitch about the schedule of the Monday night games and the Thursday night games. This time they got it right. They actually have a good game scheduled here that's relevant in the playoff standings. And it would have been a lot of fun to see with a full house. So, let's talk about those standings a little bit, Scott, not just in the AFC, but in the AFC North. Pittsburgh looks like a team to me.
They're falling apart.
Has another loss in them, Scott. What do you think?
They're falling apart. I think they'll lose to the Colts.
I think that's certainly possible. And the Browns are surging with a win tonight. They could be just a game behind the Steelers.
Of course, they don't have the tiebreaker anyway, but still.
True. I mean, the Steelers would have to have a complete collapse for the Browns, but the Browns are within shouting distance. The Ravens, however, are not. They are fighting for their playoff life with the Raiders, with the Dolphins.
Dolphins losing to the Chiefs, even though it wasn't surprising, definitely helped out Baltimore's chances.
No question. It takes the Dolphins down to 8-5. Of course, the Ravens could be 8-5 with a win here. Colts are 9-4. They're going to be a game ahead.
Colts are going to get in.
Colts are almost a sure.
They play Houston next week, and Watson might have a banged up wrist. I think he might play, but he's not 100%. I think the Colts should win that game. They'll definitely get to double-digit wins. It's a question of Miami versus Baltimore.
That to me, that Texans team has a team that's just ready to fold up their tents.
If after Watson injured his hand, why would they even bother?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You don't have the coach you're going to have next year. You probably don't have a lot of personnel. Your personnel is going to be drastically different, I would assume.
You have no wide receivers. So Cuty's okay, and Brandon Cooks is fine whenever he's not injured, which is never.
Well, that's the same thing with Fuller. Fuller's a mighty fine receiver. I'm not sure he's quite a WR1, but he's close.
Still, the point is that there's really no point. The only reason why Watson would even play next week is if they want to play spoiler.
Yeah,
So,
true.
I think it's just between Miami, who insists on going back to Tua every time. Tua, I thought, was okay against Kansas City. He had a couple bad interceptions, but he took a really bad safety. But he was fine for the most part, but I still think Fitzpatrick's better. And then you have Baltimore, who has a very, very limited offense, a quarterback you can't really throw, but a very, very easy schedule down the stretch.
Let's talk about Lamar Jackson just for a second here before we get rolling. He had an unusual season last year where he just barely threw for 3,000 yards, but still threw for 30 touchdowns.
It's almost impossible.
Right. We called it at the time a statistical anomaly that probably would never be repeated. And it certainly hasn't been repeated this time. He's opening weekend, he threw for 270 against the Browns, oddly enough, in conditions that are going to be a lot different than this. We'll talk about that in a minute. But since then, Scott, he has not thrown for 250 yards. In fact, he's only thrown for 200 yards twice since the first week of the season. Yikes. That's not good for a regular day-to-day NFL quarterback. It's certainly not good for the reigning MVP. Any thoughts other than the fact that obviously he's been missing some personnel and they certainly fought through some injury issues, but any insight into why his numbers have taken such a dramatic dip this season versus last season?
Well, first of all, it's not fully his fault. I know, of course, he's limited as a quarterback. It also doesn't help when your best offensive lineman, after paying a massive extension, is out for the year. They lost a couple of big pieces on the offensive line, which has definitely hurt the consistency when it comes to pass protection and even run blocking, because, of course, they're a phenomenal just running team. But looking at Lamar, he's just not accurate with the ball. It's just the way it is. I know that he can run around, buy time in the pocket, do whatever he wants when it comes to being so elusive that nobody can tackle him. But if you look at just him throwing the ball, he's just highly inaccurate. And I know that people have been saying, well, especially leading up to the season, John Harbaugh was saying, yeah, I know that Lamar was great as a runner, but now we're going to try to, ease him into throwing the ball more. I don't think that's going to work because I don't think he's a very good thrower of the ball. I know that when he came out into the NFL, a lot of critics, when he was coming out in the draft, said, he won the Heisman, but he's really not a great thrower of the football. And people thought, I guess, but he's so fast, he can do whatever he wants. And the first season kind of was very similar to like a Cam Newton MVP year, where they ran a very unique style of offense. He uses mobility, and really nobody knew what to do. And then the next year, shocker, Cam Newton's numbers plummeted. Lamar Jackson's numbers have plummeted. The thing about the NFL, it's the beauty of getting film on your opponents, is that you have a lot of bright bulbs in the room, with the exception of a couple of idiots here or there. And I feel like you kind of know who I'm talking about. Shout out to the Raiders for firing their defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at just the fact that Lamar is kind of ironically a one-dimensional quarterback, and it doesn't involve throwing the ball.
Yeah, I totally agree. The history of running quarterbacks in the NFL, it's not good. It's not good. Number one, you take punishment on your body that certainly nobody else really has to play through because so much is required of the quarterback position. You
have about two exceptions, maybe like 1.5, because you got Tarkenton, who of course is an all-timer, and then I guess you can merge Cunningham and Vic, who were both successful at times and then kind of struggled towards the back half.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of guys are going to have success even for 3 or 4 years.
The issue is you need some type of balance when it comes to also being able to throw the football into tight windows, and I don't think Lamar can do that.
No, certainly not on a consistent basis. And let's be honest, he doesn't have the greatest wide receiver talent around.
No, that doesn't help. That doesn't help at all.
Mark Andrews is certainly, I'd say, top 5 tight end without a lot of question there.
I think the issue is that they're expecting Hollywood Brown to be a number 1 receiver, and I don't even know if he's a number 2.
I was going to say, is he a top, what, 50 wide receiver in the NFL?
I don't have a list of 49 in front of me, but I would probably lean, if he is, in the 40s or not ranked at all.
Yeah, I mean that would mean every team has like roughly 1.5 receivers better than him.
I think that Brown's fine, but I think the issue is that they put him at the wide receiver 1 spot. I know that's where he played in Oklahoma, I feel like he'd be really good in the slot.
Yeah, he does. He does seem a lot more like a slot guy. He has the kind of the size and the moves of a slot guy. But
like, I mean, when your answer and your duct tape to a hole in the boat is Willie Snead and a very, very old Des Bryant, who I know he's not going to be playing in this game, but you know what I mean. That was the last-ditch effort to help save the receiving corps.
right.
Des Bryant off an ACL injury, it pretty much sums up the current state of the receiving corps. It's not very good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would give Duvernay more snaps. That's a separate story.
I think that I think Hollywood Brown is about as close to being a 1 as Willie Snead is to being a 2. So let's see what we got here tonight, Scott. Because obviously you go to war with the wide receivers you have, not the wide receivers you want. So that's what Baltimore's going to do tonight. We mentioned it briefly up top, and now it's time to focus on it. It's going to be a windy night there in Cleveland. Not going to be a lot of rain, but the wind's going to be 22 miles an hour steady, with gusts up 30 or higher. It's going to put an emphasis on the run. Oh, no, Scott, these teams are going to have to run. How will they do that?
I have no idea, since both of them are top 2 running offenses in the entire league.
Yeah, they not only do they run the ball a lot, they're actually good at it. They're second and third in rushing attempts. They're first and second in rushing yards per game, and they are first and fourth in yards per carry. So they don't just do it to kill time. They're actually very, very effective at it.
Isn't it crazy how Cleveland people were talking about how Stefanski was a terrible hire and how they didn't make really any splashes during the offseason? Yeah, it turns out that fixing the offensive line is really all you need sometimes, and that's exactly what Cleveland did.
Yeah, very, very good defense. In fact, Browns' rush defense is actually a little better than the Ravens' rush defense, and you wouldn't think that. But Browns are giving up just 4.1 yards per carry, while the Ravens give up 4.4.
So we're actually gonna disagree a little bit about Cleveland's defense, but I'll let you finish your.
Well, I just now I want to know what kind of smack talk you have for the Cleveland defense, guy.
The main smack talk I have is that I think their numbers are extremely inflated because of the fact that they have played several really, really bad weather games. And I know that this is a bad weather game, so you can make the argument that why does any of this matter if it's going to be bad weather anyway? But if you watch Cleveland play in good weather situations, even last week against Tennessee, what the hell was that second half? I mean, you can just look at Cleveland throughout the entire season. They had a couple of really good games on defense against the Raiders, where it was basically a monsoon or whatever you want to call it. You had Houston, which was also basically a monsoon, or there was a massive, almost tornado in the area. But if you look at the rest of the Browns' performances, they're really not that great on defense. I know that Myles Garrett is a ridiculous defensive end, and people didn't like him because he took his helmet off and tried to kill somebody with it. Doesn't change the fact that he's still one of the best pass rushers in the league, and he definitely has looked the part so far this season. This team also gave up 25 points to Jacksonville. Looking at recent performances here, they gave up 30-plus to the Bengals twice, 32 to the Colts, gave up 38 to the Cowboys. I mean, that was with Dak, so I guess that's more excusable. But you look at all these performances in games that didn't involve really, really bad weather, the Eagles game, the Texans game, and the Raiders, and their defense just isn't very good. I said they have 30-plus to the Colts. They have 20-plus to the Colts. But you have 30-plus to the Bengals twice. You have 25 to Jacksonville, 35 to Tennessee. I don't think this defense is very good. I think it's decent from a pass rush perspective, but I don't think the secondary is very good. Am I wrong for feeling that way? Because a lot of numbers in decent weather suggest this team is kind of at least overrated when it comes to defense.
Well, you could certainly say some of the same things about the Baltimore defense as well. I mean, the Baltimore defense gave up 28 to Philadelphia. They gave up 28 to Pittsburgh. None of those are great performances. They, of course, give up 30 to Tennessee, as they give up 5.1 yards per carry. So I obviously both of these teams still have flaws. You say, well, Cleveland plays good only when it's bad weather. Well, guess what? It's bad weather again.
I'm just saying I think Baltimore's defense could also be overrated. I'm just saying if people look at numbers talking about how this defense has good points points allowed per game, I'm just mentioning there are a couple of variables that people are not including into that equation.
All right, fair enough. So what do you got for tonight, bud?
Well, I think it's worth mentioning all the line movement that's happened in this game because I find it pretty interesting. You've had a decent amount of money to the under. It's gone from 47 to about 46. That doesn't surprise me at all because of the win that we just talked about. So I do expect more under money to come in closer to game time. The spread is where I'm kind of lost because Baltimore is on a short week. and Cleveland has the better record. Doesn't really mean much from the better record, but you know what I mean. Like Cleveland's the better team this season. Cleveland's also at home, and Baltimore went from pick'em to -3. I don't really know how to describe the line movement on this spread. You got any ideas?
No, I think it's all about. A lot of times I think it's built on reputation, especially when you have Monday night games, which is going to attract a fair amount of square money. I think people look at this, and I think a lot of that is reputation money that's coming in. People think Baltimore's going to make some kind of surge here at the end of the season. It is a little surprising the way that the money has come in on Baltimore, just to the extent that it has. I mean, I think
I'm not surprised Baltimore's favored. I'm surprised that it's gone to 3. I thought it would be around 1.5.
Well, and it's also recency bias. I think they look at last week's performance where Baltimore dominated Dallas. So congratulations. I think
Can you really say that though? Because Cleveland had probably the best half of any team in the entire season.
I think it's casual fans driving this line, Scott. I don't think it's sharp money out there. I think they look at the total scores. I think they look at Cleveland just barely scraping by against Tennessee without any context how the game actually went, and they see the Baltimore team that was competitive shorthanded against Pittsburgh, and then they see a Baltimore team that doubled up the Cowboys. Oh, they think Baltimore is back. That's the only explanation I have. I don't have the magic answer because I'm like you. It makes no sense. It seems to me this line is headed in the wrong direction. So,
well, the only thing that I could think of is the fact that Baltimore's getting a couple of key pieces back from last week who did not play. For example, Mark Andrews most likely to play, people like that. So maybe that'll play a factor. I know
They're getting Snead and Andrews are both going to be back for this.
Calais Campbell's probably not going to play. So that does definitely hurt on the defensive line because he is a very solid defensive lineman. But looking at this actual matchup here, I agree it's part of its reputation. I think a lot of it also to do with the fact that recent matchups, just Baltimore kills this team every year. And
that's
people are assuming, since Baltimore always wins and they won week 1 by 30, they'll win this game. And my argument is, I feel like we had the same conversation in college about Louisiana Lafayette and Appalachian State a couple weeks ago. Where it's just like, this team kills this team all the time. And it's just like, well, this other team might actually be better this year.
Right.
And they won outright, even though they hadn't done so ever. I don't equate an NFL game to a college game, but it's more of just the head-to-head reputation of both teams that I'm alluding to. I think that this line's very interesting. I don't really have a thought on the side, to be honest. I know that if you like Cleveland, you're getting a hell of a deal. You can get the home team on the money line or even on the spread at a pretty solid price for a team that has 9 wins. But looking at this matchup here, I think I'm just going to lean to the under and just call it a day. I expect an unpredictable game because of the weather. So when in doubt, just rely on punts and field goals and really bad decisions to go for it around the 30-something yard line because the wind is too much of a factor. So there's a lot of empty drives, a lot of running clock. I'll lean to the under.
And two teams, regardless of how many pieces they're getting back or what they look like last week, I think you can agree that their defense has certainly outshined their offense in both cases here. I'll tell you what I like, Scott. I'll play the Browns on the money line. I think we're getting a hell of a price there at plus 150. We're getting 3-2 on our money, which means if they play this game 5 times, you just got to win more than twice. And I think this is a pretty even matchup right here. I'll take the value there, even if we don't cash that ticket, we can sleep well tonight knowing that we made a good play. And I think the most value out there is the Browns plus 150 straight up.
And I'm assuming you're also leaning under because of the weather.
Again, I got a premium on the.
Okay, sorry, I forgot about that.
So, but yeah, it certainly is adding up to a game where they're going to be running the football a lot. Number one, that's what they want to do anyway. And I think the weather is going to definitely play a factor there as far as the passes go, the punts, things like that. A lot of the wind factors into a lot of places you don't necessarily think it will. That you don't think about it. Everybody thinks about passing and field goals, but it factors into decisions that are made on 4th down and things like that. So
that's actually one thing I want to talk to you about because on 4th down in bad weather, everyone knows Harbaugh as being this ultra aggressive analytics guy who goes for pretty much on almost every 4th down and short.
Right.
almost every time. Do you think he's more prone to punt in these weather conditions? Or do you think he's more likely to go for it because he just thinks, oh, they won't be able to move the ball anyway?
I think he's more likely to. I think he's more likely to go for it because I think good possessions and good field position are going to be at a premium.
Mm.
So I think if you're, I don't know, I want to say if you're past the -40, it's an automatic go for it. I think for Harbaugh here.
And that could be good for underbettors because instead of relying on Justin Tucker, who's one of the best kickers of all time,
Correct.
we're probably going to be going for it on 4th and 5, 4th and 4, and you might see a decent amount of empty trips.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot fewer field goal attempts over 50, maybe even over 45. I think it definitely cuts down the range of the field goal and causes you to go for them in situations. Now, that's the thing. Normally Harbaugh maybe at the 30, 4th and 6, 4th and 7, he's not going to go for it. And I think in tonight's game that's a possibility where he's not just going to automatically trot Tucker out there.
And just another thing to ask you, the wind, just to confirm, is going to be steady for all 4 quarters, correct? It's not just a surge thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's going to start blowing late afternoon and should blow all the way through this game.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. By the way, if you've ever been to Cleveland, that's a cold town, man. That wind comes off of Lake Erie, and it is chilly. Other than San Francisco, there's no town that I know of that's colder when it's windy. And of course, San Francisco just.
Well, I'd assume you'd say Chicago because of that, but.
Yeah, although the wind in Chicago is a little bit different. It doesn't necessarily come off of Lake Michigan. It does, it tends to come off of Lake Michigan more in the summer.
Mm. And I spent 4 years in Wisconsin, so I was by the lake all the time. So I know the feeling.
You got the wrong, up in Wisconsin, you got the wind coming off the lake, because it's blowing west to east.
Not a fun time.
But no, there's no cold, Scott, like an upper Midwest cold.
Mm.
It just bites right through you. So should be a fun game to watch. I'm looking forward to this game, Scott. And not something I can necessarily say every Monday night. I mean, obviously we look forward to it because it's NFL, it's Monday, but this is actually should be a high quality football game. And it's going to be a yardstick for Cleveland. Cleveland really is going to find out where they are, because until you exercise the demons of beating the team that is always in front of you, you're still going to be just the little brother. And Cleveland's got a couple of them. They've got Pittsburgh and they've got Baltimore, and I think they can take care of business tonight. I like the Cleveland Browns plus 150 on the money line.
All right, and I'm looking at the under.
All right, good enough. And I know you have do you have a play of the day up on this game, Scott?
Yes, I have a play of the day on a prop. So if you want to look at a player prop, you can check that out, as that's one of the videos I posted last night.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, guys. And as always, if you're looking for the deepest dive anywhere in the world on this game, make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Deep dives not just into this game, but every game going on in America each and every day. Winnersandwhiners.com, always there for you, always free. And of course, if you like what we're doing here, if you're enjoying the video, we appreciate it if you'd give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. If you haven't done so already, Scott, we may go past 10,000 this week. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I know that we've been hovering for the last, I'd say, week or two. So hopefully we'll get over that number.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. So, just go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Maybe you'll be number 10,000 and get all kinds of accolades from us. That'd be pretty neat. But anyway, we'll be watching this game tonight, have a little fun, and make some plays. I will definitely have making some live plays on this. Once we see how the game flow is going, I think there could be some opportunities for some nice cashes on the live. I know you're doing well in the drive props this weekend.
It's very easy. Just look at every Steelers game and just bet every time they have the ball.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, guys. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com, appreciate you watching. Hope every one of those bets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. Guys, have a great day. Scott, have some fun tonight, make a little cash. And then we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it on Today in Sports Betting. All right, you guys take care. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Clear.